What's up? Coach Emma here, and welcome back to the Fit Habit Life podcast, where we cut through the noise, talk real health and fitness, sustainable fat loss, and habits that actually work. And today, we've got a special guest, Coach Isaiah Mitchell. So I met Isaiah on a forum that will not be named. Uh, and we actually got to meet in person. Probably it's been a month and a half at
Mhm.
the Real Coaches Summit, which is super cool to get to meet him, get to know him better. We got some In-N-Out burger. So yeah, just I'll just have you introduce yourself. I think a lot of people can learn from your story. You've had a crazy transformation and a crazy journey. So just introduce yourself.
Yeah, I've got to give all of the credit to In and Out for sure. I wouldn't be here without him. I wouldn't be who I am without him. So first and foremost, just major shout out to In and Out. We need to get a restaurant established over here in Minnesota, but I don't think that's going to happen. But yeah, appreciate the intro. Appreciate the opportunity to come on here and share my story. It's something I never tire of doing, and there's a lot of things I could get into, a lot of places. I could start, but yeah, just to kind of give you a brief overview of who I am. Of course, I'm Isaiah. I'm a nutrition coach and personal trainer. I've been doing this full time since 2021. I've been doing it since 2019, but I switched over to full time in 2021. Train a variety of clients online and in person, everyone from 15-year-old kids up to, your 80-year-old grandmother that just wants to, experience a little bit less chronic pain. And of course, I myself had my own 100-pound weight loss journey, which I'm excited to get into.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you get into health and fitness?
Great question. Great question. So it definitely wasn't always this way. I mean, I was the typical unathletic kid, always pick last for gym class. I tried various different sports, not fat ball, basketball, football, baseball, just wasn't good, at any of them. I couldn't run around the baseball field without convincing myself I had asthma. I was just overweight. I didn't have asthma. And then really the breaking point, kind of the come to Jesus moment, if you will, was actually at the doctor's office. So they were running my
Wow.
cholesterol and it told me that basically I'm at a point where if I don't get my shit together, I'm not going to see 30. And that is a phrase that has stuck with me forever. You are not going to see 30. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm gonna go fix that. So immediately, signed up for a gym membership and as most people do, just started doing everything wrong that you could possibly do. So, as most people do, started with cardio and literally running miles and miles and miles after school every day, sometimes to the point of making myself sick and literally throwing up. And then eventually I found out, muscle's a pretty important thing. Should probably get into some weights and things like that. Did all of that wrong as well. Just blast every muscle every day until I'm super sore and crawling out of the gym, thinking peanut butter is a good source of protein. The Garcinia cambogia from Dr. Oz, like anything you can do wrong, I did it multiple times. So eventually I kind of started making a little bit of progress as I got like closer to my senior year. And then I graduated and enlisted in the military. And that is when I met
Wow.
someone named Van Norman. And he introduced me to the concept of if it fits your macros. And that's when kind of everything changed for me. I started tracking my calories and my macros. I got better workouts because he kind of knew what he was doing. And then eventually, probably around 2019 is when I found Mind Pump, the podcast. And that's what drove me to get my first certifications, through NASM, become a personal trainer. And you just keep fast forwarding. And now here we are now.
That's awesome. That's a crazy transformation. So you were in high school when you were at the doctor and they told you you wouldn't
Yeah, at
live.
that point, I was probably like 15, like
Wow.
230 pounds and like 5'3". Not a good combination. Just
Yeah.
really compressed and compact. Those two don't go well together.
Oh man, that's crazy. So how did you, I feel like a lot of people, not, well, some people wouldn't have taken the initiative you did to start making changes. So, what drove you to do that besides the doctor telling you that? 'Cause some people might take that and say, well, what's the point?
Mhm.
I can't do anything. I'm already screwed. How did you make that mental shift?
A big part of it was definitely the fear, which, can be a great motivator. You kind of need a tiger that you're running away from, and you also need a carrot on a stick that you're chasing. And if you kind of have one or the other, it can kind of work, but usually not long enough to like actually get where you want to be. And there was also a component of just being fed up, just having enough of being where I was. Back then, I knew full well like this is fully within my control. Like I know a lot of days nowadays, there's a lot of scapegoats. Everyone wants to blame everything other than themselves, their hormones, seed oils, environmental toxins, whatever. Like I knew I was eating too many freaking calories. Like Doritos and Mountain Dew were my downfall. Like those were my go-to. So was just kind of fed up with it and just wanted to take initiative. And I think that fear getting instilled in me was that boost, that kick in the butt that I needed. And I also experienced, my fair share of bullying and shaming, which I may have an interesting perspective on. Just like fear, it can be a good tool. I truly believe if I didn't undergo that, I wouldn't have had any reason to change. And in a way, it's kind of just society trying to keep society in check. Like, hey, man, this isn't healthy. 230 pounds, 5'3", like no shame, no disrespect. This is not good for you. And that can come from a place of compassion or it can come from a place of hate. But I think it was a combination of hitting rock bottom and also that fear of the future, kicking me in the butt.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Well, kudos, man. I mean, not only did you lose like 100 pounds, but now you're actually helping other people go through the same challenges and avoid those mistakes that you made.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, I think most of us coaches out there took the wrong turn to start. So that's really cool. So how do you like approach coaching your clients? Like what's like one of the first couple things you guys will do together to just get that ball rolling?
hmm So kind of two different answers there. How I like my style of coaching is definitely sustainability over everything. If anything that we're doing from a nutrition perspective, workout, stress management, sleep perspective, like if you can't do it for 10 years, it doesn't freaking matter. Because you'll do it for 10 days and then come day 11, you're not doing it anymore. So the input is gone and now the output is gone. And the game of weight loss, the game of pretty much everything in life comes down to inputs and outputs. If you want an output, a result, there are inputs or actions required to do it. If you're not willing to do those inputs, you don't want the output. You want the idea of the output without actually putting in the work. So sustainability absolutely over everything. And one of the first things we do is definitely just kind of get clear on what's true and like what actually works, kind of dispelling some of the misinformation. Calories matter. Your hormones don't matter nearly as much as that social media guru with the tinted glasses would have you believe. You can eat any foods you want and still lose weight. That's a really, really big thing we work on right in the beginning is habitualizing and normalizing our trigger foods, our cheat foods, our binge foods, anything we've told ourselves we can't have for XYZ reason. We need to get those back in because they're a big problem because that's the stuff we lose control over whenever you go, you don't keep any of that stuff in the house. You try to be good as long as you can. And now you're at a graduation party and it's everywhere. And you and that food are enemies. How do we think this is going to go? We're going to get in as much as we can while we can because we know the moment we leave, the restriction kicks right back in. So a lot of the inner work, emotional stuff we work in the beginning, but also the rebuilding of the metabolism. And most people need to go through a phase like this. Not everyone, but absolutely the vast, vast majority of women need to go through
Yes.
this because they come to me with a history of 5 to 10 plus years of dieting, losing weight, and then gaining it back. But when they gain it back, no muscle comes with it. So when we look over the course of a decade, body fat's exactly the same, even though it's gained and lost, gained and lost. But throughout that decade, muscle has just been dropping and dropping and dropping, which means your metabolism has also been dropping. So most women find themselves in a situation where in order to get a pound off the scale, they have to literally starve themselves. And going back to the social eating environment, it just gets impossible. Like, good luck going out to a restaurant, enjoying a barbecue. That slice of cake at your daughter's birthday party, that's 50% of your calories for the day. So, like, we got to build muscle. We got to get stronger. We got to rebuild the metabolism. And a big reason I think weight loss is uniquely harder for women, and I'll plant my flag in the ground for that, is one, the reason I just mentioned. They're under muscled compared to men. They're not as strong compared to men. They tend to not be as active, and they tend to be shorter. And that is a very, very overlooked factor. And you'll get, the 5 foot woman that's like, why can my husband eat so much? And I have, because he's 6'2" and 250 pounds. Like, what are we talking about? This is just basic biology. So all of those factors play in to uniquely make weight loss harder for women, but it's not impossible. You just need the right strategy, and you need to get yourself ready. And most of you listening right now are not ready for fat loss, and that's okay. You can get ready, and you should take that time to get ready.
Yeah, that's the same approach I take with my clients. A little bit less on the calorie tracking from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of like just Gen Pop normal people, actually more men now, than I did before. And a lot of them, it's like they're just not eating enough fruits and vegetables and protein. So
Oh,
we just
always the men. It's the
yep,
fruit and vegetables with the men, and it's the protein with the women, and it's the
yep,
fiber for everyone.
yes, yep. So that's usually kind of what we start with, and then we kind of move into that sort of tracking phase.
Mhm.
But yeah, most women like not eating enough to even like I had somebody come to me and she's eating like 1,500 calories and her weight loss plateaued. That's like, okay, we're gonna need to slowly build you up because I'm not gonna have you eat 1,000 calories a day. You can't
Right.
sustain that. That's not healthy for you. And it's a huge hurdle. So how do you like tackle that with your female clients?
Yeah, and it's different for every person. I've got clients that track, I've got clients that don't track. About 80% of them only track protein and calories, because when we protein, calories, two things, not overwhelming. Protein, calories, carbs, fats, water, fiber, micronutrients. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed. This is just giving me anxiety. So it definitely depends on the person, and there is a way to work yourself up towards that. You could start with literally just taking pictures of your food. You can move from there to just tracking calories, just tracking protein, even just, hand portions, some simple meal building, just having a structure. Like for your plate, half is going to be veggies, a quarter is my lean protein, a quarter is my veggies, just some sort of structure. So we're not just winging it constantly and just, eating what we feel eating like. And that's, we could get into intuitive eating. That's like a end goal. Right now, most people's intuition is eat whatever is going to give me dopamine. And that's,
Yep.
pizza, ice cream, the cookies, the pastries, and all that stuff. But even if my client isn't going to be tracking, it's still a really good opportunity in the beginning to show them where they're at and why where they're at isn't sustainable. So, like for that example, I calculate that person's total daily energy expenditure, and I show them, look, you are stuck right now at 1,500 calories, and you have, 40 pounds to lose. Where do you think we can go from here? Do we drop down to 1,000? Sure, why not? Well, what happens when that stops working? Now we go down to 800 and 500, and now we're not eating at all. Now we're literally just eating ice cubes. So I show them, here's where you are now, and here's where I want to get you to. And most of that comes down to like their activity multiplier. So when you calculate your total daily energy expenditure, how many steps are you getting? How many workouts are you getting? And usually we just need to kind of increase those by like 1 to 2 notches each, and they're good to go. Do all of that, eat that amount of calories, get the body adapted to that level. And now we have a much higher set point to cut back from. So that person that was stuck, not losing on 1500, we could easily add 5, 6, 7, 800 calories to that person's diet without putting on extra body fat. And now you can enjoy the restaurant, the barbecue, that slice of cake at your kid's birthday party. So even if we're not going to track, it's always helpful to show them here's where you are now and why that's not sustainable.
Yeah, yeah, that's a similar approach I take with my clients. I have this old couple right now. She's like 76, he's like 74, and they came to me only eating a little bit at breakfast and dinner,
Mm,
and they want to lose weight. They're
yeah.
pre-diabetic. So I was like, dude, you guys are like not eating enough. So we're just gonna try to focus on your protein, getting you walking. They were probably walking like 3,000 steps a day.
Yeah. Makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, and so doing that, doing those things, not only are they eating 3 meals a day now, their pants and clothes are fitting better. They're eating 3 full meals, they're hitting their protein intake, and their
Let's
energy and
go.
everything else improves.
Crazy how that works.
Yeah,
Crazy. I've
right?
got a perfect
Right?
example of that right now too. A male client of mine, we've added 680 calories to his diet, and the scale is
Wow.
just flat. It went up for a little bit and then like dropped like 6 pounds or something, and now it's just been completely flatlined. And now next week on Monday, he's actually going to be able to make that transition into that fat loss phase. All the while, seeing improvements in pictures, seeing improvements in measurements. So like what we're talking about does work for sure. And also, what's your other option? Eat even less? Like
Yep.
for how long?
Yeah. And it's like, and they keep talking about wanting to lose weight, and I'm like, yes, I understand that, but I mean, you guys aren't eating anything now. So
Mhm.
do you want to just like eat 1 meal a day? Can you do that for the rest of your life? No.
Mhm.
So now they can actually, they told me a couple weeks ago, they went to like their grandkid's birthday party and they had a piece of cake and ice cream and their weight stayed the same and they were shocked because
Let's
typically,
go.
right? You
Let's
know,
go.
so I'm like, okay, so it's working and I know you're still the same weight, but your weight hasn't changed and you're eating like 3 full meals a day and having ice cream sometimes.
Mhm. And
Like
even
that's
if
a
it did
win.
change, most people need to weigh more than they think to look the way they
Yes.
want to look,
Yes.
for sure.
Oh, that's a great topic. I think we should dig into that,
Mhm.
especially like with women, because I mean, personally, so I struggle with my relationship to food, body image, all that stuff. And I always thought I needed to be really small. And so, I mean, I'm 27, so diet culture wasn't as strong. Like the 90s, like
Mhm.
heroin looking skinny women wasn't
Yeah.
as popular, but still, like, I'm 6 feet tall. And so I always weighed more than people. So I'm like, I need to be like 150 pounds and all this stuff. And when I finally like got down to that, I had no butt and like no shape or anything. I had like
Mhm.
no muscle mass. And women don't realize, muscle, it weighs more than body fat. So if you actually want to look like quote unquote toned or whatever, you actually need to weigh more than you probably think that you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only does it weigh more, it takes up less space while weighing more. And
Yep.
for any of the women, listening or watching right now, I can promise you, if you were to send us 3 to 5 women who have the body you want and guess their weight, you'd be off by 20 to 30 pounds, maybe even 40 in some instances. For sure. For
Yep.
sure.
Yep. It's crazy. It's really crazy. So from you losing the weight, did you go into like a bulking kind of strength building,
Mhm.
muscle building phase after that? Or had you already built muscle and then when you lost the weight you could see some of it? Or because I
Yeah.
had another coach on my podcast last week and we were talking about how she did a bodybuilding show and she had never spent any time building muscle. So when she got down to like 115, she had nothing. Like she
Mhm.
just looked really small, tiny, and she was like, "Wow, I need to spend like a couple years building some muscle to get that look that I want."
Yeah. Yeah. So luckily I got to kind of reap the benefits of the newbie gains. So I definitely built a lot of muscle and strength throughout that process. And at the end of it all had the look that looking back now I wanted, but was faced with some very, very strong body dysmorphia. And I mean like absolutely shredded. I could make out each one of my abs. I had veins in my abs and arms and was absolutely terrified of the idea of bulking or adding more calories back and just packing on body fat and just slipping back to where I was. So on the back end of losing that 100 pounds, the next like 3, 4 years was literally me battling an eating disorder for sure. And just
Wow.
kind of bouncing back and forth with it in this place of like, I don't look as good as I want to look, but I'm definitely, not back to where I started and just kind of struggling. And then eventually I actually reached out to someone else, Jared Hamilton, and I worked with one of his coaches for
That's
6 months. That completely changed my life, changed my relationship with food, and also changed the way I coach. So that's where I, get a lot of the stuff that I teach was from actually working with his people and going through his program. But yeah, I was absolutely terrified of bulking, building. I didn't even know what a reverse diet was at that point, but like I know what I needed back then, now for sure, but definitely didn't go about it the right way.
Yeah, that's wow. I struggle with a lot of the same things. I was always like chubby overweight. I wasn't 100 pounds overweight, but I got to a point where I was like 220,
Hmm.
which for me is like probably 40, 50 pounds too much. So when I did get down, it was like I kept my activity high, kept my calories really low, and that caused like hormone imbalances and other things. And
Oh yeah. Yeah, my
man,
energy was tanked. I had literally no libido, no sex drive. My workout sucked. And at the lowest, I think I was probably at like 1,600 calories. And nowadays I maintain on 2,700
that's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, and I
thousand calorie difference.
so what was that indicator that you had that was like, I need to reach out to somebody. I need some extra guidance with that. Like, how did you kind of pull the trigger?
A lot of it was his content for sure, really, really resonated with me and really, really spoke to me. And just not being able to stop the binges and like get back into control. And we're talking about like 3, 4, 5, close to like 10,000 calorie binges. Like
Oh, wow.
there was a point where I was, constantly consuming videos on YouTube of like other people doing cheat days just to like kind of live that out through them while I wouldn't eat or just, make sure I hit my macros for today. I'll just kind of watch my videos. And then before I know it, I'm like, oh, I want to go get what they had. And then I'm, back in my bedroom with a Domino's pizza and Ben and Jerry's. So it just got to a point where I was sick of food being my enemy. And I was like, I know I can't do this on my own, and it's stupid to even try to do something I've never done on my own. So kind of had to, humble myself and reach out and get that help.
That's awesome. Yeah, I not the
Yeah,
yeah,
for
but
sure.
the
Ben and
reaching
Jerry's
out
is
part.
awesome,
Yeah.
but not a pint at a time.
I actually in college, I would every other day I would have a pint of Ben and Jerry's. Yeah, it was the
They
frozen
were
yogurt
good.
one.
Okay.
So it's a
You're in the
little
clear.
better. But growing up, my food was heavily restricted in the house. Like my dad controlled a lot of the food, and so I exhibited like similar binge eating tendencies, but not
Mhm.
because of restricting myself at the time. I had no idea I even was overweight because I know I had a weird view of myself in the mirror. I was a D1 athlete, so I was like working out 4 hours a day.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, I can eat whatever I want now. My dad's not controlling the food intake.
I see. Yeah, the
Let-
reins came off.
yeah, yeah. And so, man, that I do not miss that.
No,
Yeah,
not at all.
no. But yeah, that's awesome that you did work through that and that you got some help. When did you reach out to him? And was it when you started coaching? Like, were you already coaching at that time, or
Yeah,
did
I was a coach myself at the time, and of course you can imagine there was an immense amount of guilt and shame that came with that when, I'm the one responsible for and coaching these people and like they're winning, they're crushing it week over week, they're not binging, their relationship with food is great. And here I was, at midnight in my room just like stuffing my face like past the point of discomfort like every other weekend. So it was while I was a coach for sure, but it's been quite a number of years now. And I actually just did a podcast with Jared the other day that's going to be dropping soon. That was a really, really good one for sure. But yeah,
that's
it was while I was a coach myself. And I'm sure I know for a fact there's a lot that are in that same boat, but don't
yes.
have the humility, either don't have the humility to speak up, or it's like the shame and the guilt that I mentioned as well.
Yeah, and I just hired my first coach after the Real Coaches Summit.
Nice.
Um, yeah, it's been really nice not to have to worry about my own workouts or my macros or all the
Yeah.
other, little stuff. But I like part of it too was me thinking I shouldn't have a coach. I'm a coach. That would be really weird. And why would somebody hire me if I also need help? And so I think there's like part of that intertwined too. It's like, but
Mhm.
getting the help makes you a better coach because you can
Yes,
learn from them like you did. And I'm learning a lot too. And it makes you better. Just
for
like you
sure.
have less overhead.
Yeah, everybody needs help.
Yes.
No one's immune to that, and two heads are always going to be better than one. And yeah, I mean, I think the best coaches either have coaches or have had coaches in the past and are open to it again in the future. But yeah, I've worked with Jared, I've worked with Danny Matranga, and that was
That's
before
awesome.
I was a coach, before I like got my first certification, and that was more so just like curiosity, like wanting to get a feel of like what does being coached feel like from the client perspective. And I mean, that was great. He got me absolutely shredded in a very sustainable way. Shout out to Danny. That's one of my favorite people in the industry. But yeah, big fan of coaches, working with coaches. And I've had coaches hire me just out of curiosity from a business perspective, just wanting the accountability or whatever it is. So yeah, can totally relate to that.
Yeah, yeah, and the accountability is huge. I think that's often like overrated. Even like with personally, like I'm pretty good at hitting my targets and whatever I set.
Mhm.
But having that like person kind of watching over you, or you
Yes.
might be like, hey, well, I did kind of want this extra thing, or, I'm not feeling too good. I don't know if I want to go to the gym today. I'm like, well, my coach is like watching me now. So I gotta
Yeah.
get there, get my steps in. Maybe I'll save that cookie for tomorrow.
Mhm. Yeah, when you know, like, shit, every Monday, every Friday, I got to submit everything to this guy, and he's going to be objective, and he's going to tell me, how I actually did, feelings aside, emotions aside, and just look at the data. Like, just that can be such a strong reinforcer to make the smarter choice, or to do the thing that you don't want to necessarily do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. So what, I guess trying to pivot the conversation more on like food relationship stuff. What did you learn when you worked with Jared that helped you get through that like binge eating cycle? And what do you apply with your clients now based on that experience?
Yeah, so there's a lot I could get into there. And a big component of all of this, whether we're talking about binge eating, stress eating, emotional eating, restriction, whatever it is, a lot of this comes back to, you'll hear Jared talk about this all the time, is identity. The story that you're telling yourself about who you are. And I love the analogy he gives for this, and it's the same one I teach to my clients, is to think of your identity like a thermostat. So thermostat is set to 70 degrees. Outside, it's 90 degrees and starts to heat up the inside of your house. It's at 90, thermostat kicks in as it's supposed to. That's its job, and brings it back down to the set point at 70. So your identity is, I'm a binger. I'm someone who can't be consistent. I'm someone that's never motivated. I always start over every Monday. And then you lose 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds. Thermostat kicks in, brings you back to your set point. I can't be 20 pounds down. I'm a binge eater. I'm someone that always struggles. You will find a way to reinforce what you believe to be true, and it'll be subconscious. You won't even realize it's happening until you step on the scale and those 20 pounds are back, and you're right back to where you started. So you have to fix the root of your identity, who you think that you are. And a really powerful exercise he had us do, and I also teach it to my clients, is imagine that you were going to be in a coma for 24 hours. And when you wake up, you will have no recollection of who you are. You have no idea about who you are or anything you've experienced in your life. And you have to write yourself a letter telling yourself who you are. And I can promise you, it's not going to be the end of the negative shit that you've been reinforcing for the past 4 decades. You're not going to write, I'm a self-sabotager. I'm never motivated. I can't be consistent. I start over every Monday. I'm a binge eater. That's not the stuff you're going to put in there. So you get this opportunity to rewrite your story, to rewrite your identity, who you're telling yourself you are. So identity is a really big component. And then also understanding what is causing the binging, because it could be emotional, it could be restriction, or it could be identity. So you got to figure out which one of those 3 is the driving force. Is it identity? Is it restriction? Easiest one to fix, just stop restricting.
Yep.
Simple. And then emotion, that one can be, just as tricky as the identity. Most people have no coping mechanisms and absolutely no understanding of how to regulate their emotions. And crazy concept here, this is going to blow a lot of people's minds. Those things called feelings are supposed to be felt fully and completely, not suppressed, not avoided, not numbed with, whatever, be that food, be that substance abuse, be that isolation. So got to get clear on what's driving it. Is it emotions? Is it restriction? Or is it identity based? And then we also got to get comfortable with food. So this kind of goes back to the habitualizing and normalizing our trigger foods. So really easy exercise here is every single day I had to eat one of my trigger foods and just fit it into my calorie budget for the day for 45 days. And you get that aha moment that you talked about earlier, where that older couple had the slice of cake, had the ice cream, and they didn't gain weight. So you get the aha moment of, I've been eating a Snickers every day for a month and a half, and I'm down 10 pounds or, whatever it is. So a lot that can go into that for sure. But just getting clear on what's driving it is going to be the very first part. And for pretty much everybody, some identity work probably needs to be done.
Yeah, definitely. Something I started implementing was the talk with that Jeb had at the Real Coaches Summit, the
Yeah.
um, I guess inner demon kind of thing, and that's kind of similar to what you're talking about. Um,
Mhm.
with like a lot of people have these like developed coping mechanisms for things based on trying to keep them where they are because your body doesn't really want to change. It wants to stay the same because
Yeah.
that's how you identify. So like when somebody's doing really well, they go eat a whole bag of chips
Mhm.
because, they lost 5 pounds. they can't lose 5 pounds. They're overweight,
Exactly. Yes.
so yeah, that's super
Yeah. So
helpful.
right out of the gates, even if it feels delusional, just labeling yourself what the version of you that you want to be. I'm already fit, healthy, and athletic. What would someone that's fit, healthy, and athletic do today? I'm going to go do that. Oh, what? 6 months later, and I'm literally that person, and it's not delusional anymore. So, in a sense, you kind of have to do fake it till
Really
you make
make
it,
it.
but it's
Yeah.
definitely going to be more helpful than holding on to that identity that you know is not serving you. So, we might as well cling on to that other one that we know will serve us for sure. For sure. And, when it comes to these coping mechanisms or these tendencies that are just so ingrained, like it's going to be hard and it's going to feel uncomfortable to carve out some new ones because you can think of that path you always take of self-sabotaging, eating the entire bag of chips. You have ridden down that ski slope 1,000 times. You can see the trail all the way from start to the end. And this new one you're trying to cover out has been snowed over for months. It's just pure powder. You can't even see which direction you're supposed to go to get to the bottom. So, like, of course, it's going to feel uncomfortable, the first couple times you ride through it. But at one point, that was the same for the other one. It was all a blank slate at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think, and I forgot who said this, but like action, like doing the thing will help you establish that new identity as well. So even if it is weird to try the new thing and pretend like you're already the person that does it, like you said, in 6 months' time, you wake up and then you are the person that does it. And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yep. Might as well.
right? It's like, why keep trying the stuff that doesn't work? Like, if you're consistently doing these things and it's digging you into a deeper and deeper hole, why not just try something new? It might not work, but the other thing you're doing isn't working either.
Yeah,
So,
definitely won't work for sure.
yeah,
So I'm gonna go with the might.
right? Well, thanks for being on the podcast today. How can
Yeah.
people find you, and what would you like to leave the audience with today?
Oh boy, it's a big responsibility to drop right at the end, but yeah, you can find me anywhere on social media at Coach Isaiah Mitchell, and that's ISAIAH, just like in the Bible, and then Mitchell with two L's, and then of course my company is Relentless Pursuit Coaching, and then if I had to leave the audience with one thing, it would probably be eat the dang food.
I like that.
Eat
I
the
like
dang
that.
food.
I like that.
There's a
Yeah,
lot that you can extrapolate from that, and we could go into an entire podcast just on eat the dang food. And I'm pretty sure Jordan Syatt wrote an entire book called Eat the Dang Food, and that was kind of his like resistance training revolution type book. But that's a good one right there. Eat the dang food.
yeah, yeah. I That's a great way to leave the show or leave the audience. Great thing to leave the audience with. And I will post like your info in the show notes. So you guys can
Awesome.
go down there
Appreciate that.
and follow him, like his stuff, join his Facebook group, do all the things. But thanks for listening to us today. This was definitely a good one. So if you are struggling with these things, don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us. We can help you through it. We've been there. And please like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next one.